so I just ordered the brand new Fidget Retro, which is a retro take on the fidgeting cube, except it is shaped like a controller. Now, as a gamer, when I first saw this, I was absolutely thrilled because I am not only a fidgeter and have a Fidget Cube, I absolutely fell for the nostalgia and definitely look and feel of the Retro. So I'm going to do an unboxing and little review and comparing it to a normal cheap Fidget Cube. So let's get unboxing. Alright, so I'm going to take it just right out of its packaging. As you can see, it comes with a little lanyard, very, very small, but something that's definitely different from the other cubes that you get to carry it around or attach it to your keys or something, which I definitely liked. It is actually very smooth. The plastic feels really great. One thing that I do love about the Fidget Retro is that there are 8 different fidgeting features compared to about the 6 to 7 if you count these two as separate ones. There are only 7 features on the Fidget Cube versus the 8 on the Retro. So I'm going to go ahead and take a feel. So I'm just going to start with the front ones. The buttons, there are 2 silent buttons and 2 buttons that make a click. Wow, these are very satisfying clicks. It actually feels like I'm clicking a pen. And these two, they're completely silent. I love that. On some of the other Fidget Cubes, normal one, it's just like a very light click. It's not very good. On the original Fidget Cube, 2 of the buttons were also silent. Secondly, I'm going to test out the joystick. Now this definitely feels like a joystick on a gamepad. There's feedback. It's definitely a little tough to move around. So it feels like, it really feels like a controller. It doesn't, and it even does the little click in too. Although it's this definitely feels like a joystick. It's providing a lot of feedback to my thumb, which is very good. On some of the other Fidget Cubes, this sort of has a lot of push in depending on which one you have. I also have a separate one from my cousin. Same company, same thing. One's button's higher than the other. One pushes a little bit better, but they don't feel, they sort of just click in. They don't move around. It's just very, very light. It does not feel like a joystick whatsoever, but the Retro, it not only gives it the look, but it has a feedback feel to it, which I definitely really like. This is a lot better of a joystick. On the bottom or the top, depending on how you are holding it, it has a very tough silent roller. This does not make any noise when rolling it. It has grips on it, which I really like, and it's really tough. It's actually kind of tough to move it, which I'm surprised at because usually I thought it was going to be like a little bit lighter, but this is definitely tough. This one provides a lot of feedback when trying to move it, so it definitely does very well. On the Fidget Cube, I guess you could attain that to the ball. This one, obviously the ball is a lot smoother to move around. Maybe it'll loosen up eventually. Then on the other side, there are 2 gears that click. Actually, very, very satisfying sound. You can move one or the other, each individually, or you can move them together. This I would compare to the gears on the Cube. I really don't, well, with the Cube, they kind of generally feel a bit the same. The gears have a little bit more feedback than the rollers. That kind of feels more like the smooth end. But they sound just about the same. I like this because there's only 2 and it's right in the hook of the design of the Retro. So your thumb kind of fits in to roll it. While on the Cube, if you want to roll the gears, you got this, smooth ball in the way. Or you have to hold the entire cube backwards and you're holding and clicking other stuff while you're trying to, move these gears. These are quiet enough. They're not very loud, which I kind of like. I don't necessarily, when I'm fidgeting, I kind of don't want bother other people while I'm doing it, so the gears aren't too loud, so I do kind of like that. Secondly, there's another switch on the back end. That is a very loud, satisfying click. And it's got a curve in with the button, so your thumb fits perfectly on it to go back and forth. There's not necessarily a quiet mode, it's just a very high click back and forth. On the cubes, they also have a satisfying click. This one sounds a little bit more hollow, just probably because of its shape. But you can do a more silent click, almost completely silent if you push down on it. I do kind of like the cubes a little bit silent click, but I mean necessarily if you're going to be flicking a switch, I do kind of like the silenceness of it, but this one definitely has a little bit better of a feel. On the other side, oh wow, this spinner feels absolutely, it is so smooth, it feels absolutely amazing. I don't even need to like have my finger on the little grip button in order to spin it. It spins beautifully, so I can actually get more than 180 degree spin just by flicking it. This is, well, that's beautiful. Reminds me of a fidget spinner. It definitely has a very, very smooth backing. The ones on these cheap fidget cubes are kind of a little hard to turn. You kind of really need to use the notch in order to turn it. So definitely compared these, the retro spin definitely 100% is a lot better than the cube. Then lastly, we sort of got like a worry stone type deal on the side of the retro, although it has grips on it, so it does provide some feedback. I used to have a worry stone to begin with before I got any of the fidget cubes, and even on the worry stone on the cube is very, very smooth. It feels kind of nice. I don't necessarily really like the rubbing feedback to it, but you know, then I mean there's a ton of open sides, so if I wanted a worry stone, I can actually just use the switch. It has the same indent, so I don't even need to click the switch. I can just rub the switch. So that's kind of like an extra little hidden feature if you don't mind, if you don't like want one specifically dedicated to a worry stone. And then lastly, which I definitely wanted to try out and piqued my interest when I saw the retro on Amazon, was this pullback fling. I'm not sure what they call it. This one, you pull this little node back as far as you can. It provides a lot of feedback. You can actually see the spring in there, and it snaps on back, so it sort of reminds me of like a pen. Another loud one, but this is more or less if you're alone. I definitely like it. You can have it, you know, you can use it directly in front of you. It feels like one of those old-fashioned pens to spring forward, or you can hold it on the side and do it quietly without letting it go. If you just keep your thumb on it, you can actually, it provides a lot of feedback, and I'm actually liking it. This is the first time I've tried doing this. So I actually just like holding it on the side and not necessarily flicking it to make a snapping sound, but just like playing with the spring's feedback, keeping it silent is actually pretty cool as well. There is nothing on the cube that represents that feature. In comparison, I actually love this little retro. I will definitely be using this one from now on. The joystick is so much better on the retro. It feels exactly like a joystick and provides a bunch of feedback. The dial actually spins. Light switch is usually loud. There isn't a silent mode on the light switch, but you know, I don't necessarily mind that too much. The rotaries, about the same. There's just, you know, one less, and it's out of the way of anything else, unlike the cube. The cube's ball is a lot smoother than the retro's. The buttons, love the two silent ones, and it has a lot more satisfying of a click. The worry stone, you can use the grip side if you want, or you can actually just use the switch as like, you know, a ninth thing to add to the retro. Kind of feels just about the same. And unlike the rest of the cube, then you got this little fling, which definitely provides, you know, a feedback and satisfying click if you just gotta play with something. So each one has its own special little features, but I definitely love the Retro a whole lot more than the Cube. It feels a whole lot better when I'm playing with one thing or fiddling with one thing. The design of it is very easy to hold in your hand. I'm not like holding on or clicking other stuff along the side of the Cube. The Retro is very sleek and keeps close to itself, so you don't necessarily hit anything. Like I can hit the buttons and I'm not interfering, you know, I'm not clicking the light switch on the back. I can just wrap my finger around the back end and not even hit it. Same thing with the spinner when I'm using the joystick, or vice versa. Everything's out of the way of each other, and I really like that. It's definitely innovative. I just wish this spun a little bit smoother. My only criticism to the Retro, so if you are a fidgeter and looking for a fidget device, and you're also a gamer, then I highly recommend the Retro. Just the look and feel is nostalgic and familiar. Every feature is secured and out of the way of another feature, so you can really generally focus your mindless attention on one instead of, you know, feeling and touching other features, unlike the Cube. If you are a fidgeter, not necessarily a gamer, and you don't mind the square bulkiness of a Cube, and I know the Cube is a little bit cheaper. Even if you aren't a gamer, then I would still recommend the Retro or the original Fidget Cube if you do care. Each one has its own little perks. It all comes down to personal preference, but for me, as a fidgeter and gamer, the Retro is definitely my absolute favorite fidget device. I will be using this one for a long while, and I highly recommend it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, or like my review if you're watching on Amazon. You can also follow me on Twitter. So thank you guys so much for watching my review on the Retro Fidget. I definitely recommend it. I really, really enjoyed it.